Welcome to Cocotales Reddit, the little corner of the internet where we pour ourselves a cup of tea, or maybe something a little stronger, and get real about the stories that shape us. It's that quiet moment, after a long day when you can finally kick off your shoes, let your hair down and just confess. We've all been there, scrolling through our phones late at night, wondering if anyone else has ever felt that heart-sinking feeling of being misunderstood or underestimated. Today's story is for every girl who has ever been told she was too much or not enough. It's about that little spark, that one moment, that one decision that changes everything, and finding the power you never knew you had, hidden in the most unexpected place. It all started last summer, with a high school party that felt like the social event of the year. It was at my best friend Jess's house, and it felt like our entire school was going to be there, at least 40 people. Normally, I'd be excited, but my stomach was in knots for one reason and one reason only. My ex, Tyler, was going to be there. And not just him, but him with his new girlfriend, Madison. Just 3 months earlier, he had shattered my world. He dumped me, and his parting words were like a permanent tattoo on my self-esteem. He said I was too conservative, too boring, especially in bed. And then he immediately started dating Madison, who was the complete opposite of Mia, wild party girl who seemed to live for posting thirst traps online. Every picture was a new reminder of how I apparently wasn't enough. So, picture this. It's the day of the party, and I'm standing in my bedroom in front of a full-length mirror, having a full-blown identity crisis. In one hand, I have my trusty black one-piece. It's my safety blanket. It's modest, it's comfortable, and it makes me look like I could be chaperoning the party instead of attending it. In my other hand, I'm holding what can only be described as a neon green string situation. My friend Jess had given it to me for my birthday a week before as a total joke gift. She'd found it on some sketchy website and thought it would be hilarious. It was aggressively neon green, the kind of color that hurts your eyes in the best way. The top was 2 tiny triangles, and the bottoms were basically dental floss. It was designed to cover absolutely nothing. But here's the crazy part. When I had tried it on for laughs, something shifted. I looked in the mirror, and the girl staring back wasn't the boring, conservative girl Tyler had dumped. She looked amazing. The color popped against my skin, and somehow this joke bikini fit me more perfectly than any swimsuit I had ever owned. It was like it was made for me. So there I was, staring at these 2 versions of myself. The safe girl in the black one-piece, or the girl in the neon green bikini who looked like she belonged in a music video. Tyler's words echoed in my head. Boring. Conservative. A wave of defiance washed over me. I thought, screw it. I wasn't going to let him define me anymore. I put on the green bikini. I threw a light cover-up over it, my heart pounding 1,000,000 miles a minute, and drove to Jess's house. The party was already in full swing when I got there. Music was blasting. People were splashing in the pool, and the whole backyard smelled like barbecue. I spotted Jess by the snack table, and when she saw me, she literally choked on her drink. "Oh my God!" she gasped, bursting into laughter. "You actually wore it!" I just shrugged, trying to act casual. "I wanted to try something different," I told her. She looked me up and down, a huge grin on her face. "You look incredible," she said. "But also, you look like a kid who just discovered rebellion." "I'll take it." The real test came a few minutes later. I took a deep breath, walked toward the pool, and let my cover-up slide off my shoulders. For a second, it felt like the entire world just stopped. The music seemed to fade. Conversations paused mid-sentence. That neon green bikini felt like it was glowing under the party lights, and I could feel every single eye turn towards me like I was a magnet. It was a terrifying feeling, but also addictive. For the first time, maybe ever, I felt powerful. I walked to the edge of the pool with a newfound confidence I didn't even know I possessed. Each step felt deliberate, purposeful. Then, across the pool, I saw him. Tyler. He was standing there with Madison clinging to his arm, but his eyes were completely fixed on me. His mouth was hanging slightly open, and it was obvious he had forgotten his girlfriend was even there. She was whispering something to him, but he wasn't listening. He was just hypnotized. A small, triumphant smile played on my lips. Without breaking eye contact, I dove headfirst into the cool, perfect water. When I came up for air, shaking the water from my hair, the world came rushing back in. But it was different now. I heard a few whistles, and even some shouts of approval from across the yard. My hair was slicked back, water was dripping down my skin, and the bikini, well, it was doing exactly what it was designed to do. I could hear snippets of conversation floating over the music. "Damn, who was that?" one guy asked. The response came quickly. "That's Tyler's ex." Then, the words that felt like pure honey. "Seriously? He's crazy for letting that go." I pretended not to hear any of it, but inside, I was soaking up every single word. I swam over to the side of the pool and pulled myself out slowly, letting the water trace lines down my body. I grabbed a random towel off a lounge chair and began to dry myself off, still acting as if I hadn't noticed Tyler was practically burning a hole into my back with his stare. That's when Marcus, a guy from the basketball team, appeared like he'd been summoned. He'd always been sweet to me, but I'd never really given him a second look because I was always so focused on Tyler. He was holding 2 red Solo cups and had this incredibly beautiful, genuine smile on his face. "Brought you something," he said, handing me a cup. "Thanks, Marcus. You're an angel," I replied, my voice sounding smoother and more confident than I felt. I let my fingers brush against his arm as I took the cup, a small gesture that felt surprisingly bold. He started talking to me about the party, telling me how beautiful I looked and how he'd never seen me like this before. I found myself laughing and smiling, actually enjoying a conversation at a party for the first time in months. And then I felt it. A change in the air behind me. I didn't even have to turn around. I smelled that cologne, the one I used to love, the one that now just reminded me of lies. "Hi," Tyler said, his voice trying to sound casual as he appeared beside us. "Hi," I replied, but I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on Marcus. "How are you?" Tyler asked, and I could hear the nervousness crackling in his voice. "I'm great, thanks," I said, finally turning to face him with a cool, dry tone. His eyes did a quick scan of my entire body before snapping back up to meet mine. "You look different." I tilted my head. "Different how?" "You know how," he said, his voice dropping a little lower. Marcus was just standing there, looking incredibly uncomfortable with the whole situation. "I'm, gonna go get more drinks," he said like a perfect gentleman. "You want anything else?" I turned my full attention back to Marcus, giving him a huge, radiant smile. "Yes, I do," I replied. "Anything sweet?" He smiled back, getting the message, and walked away. The second he was gone, Tyler's casual act dropped. "New boyfriend?" he asked, irritation lacing his words. "Why do you want to know?" I shot back. "Just curious." "Oh, I see," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "The same curiosity you had when you cheated on me with Madison?" Tyler swallowed hard. I never cheated on you. Of course you did, I said, not letting him off the hook. It might not have been physical then, but you were already with her in your head long before you broke up with me. He didn't have a response, because he knew it was the absolute truth. Instead, he just kept staring at me with that look, the one I knew all too well. It was the look he got when he wanted something. You look incredible, he finally said. Seriously, that bikini. You never wore anything like that with me. The words were just there on the tip of my tongue, sharp and ready. Maybe because you never gave me reasons to feel beautiful enough to wear it. The sentence hit him like a physical blow. I saw it land, right on target. He was speechless for a moment. I always thought you were beautiful, he stammered. No, Tyler, I said, shaking my head. You thought I was. Safe? There's a difference. Just then, Marcus returned with my drink. Perfect timing. I thanked him with a loud, deliberate kiss on his cheek. I saw Tyler's entire face darken with rage. Thanks, you're a sweetheart, I said to Marcus, letting my hand trail down his arm. Marcus was clearly pleased, soaking up the attention. Tyler just stood there, watching us, his expression getting more and more irritated. It was exactly the reaction I had been hoping for. Come on, let's dance, I said, taking Marcus's hand and pulling him toward the crowd. As we walked away, I could feel Tyler's eyes glued to my back, and for the first time in 3 months, I finally felt like I was in control. The music was loud and contagious, a pulsing beat that seemed to sync up with my own racing heart. The second we hit the makeshift dance floor by the pool, something just took over. I started dancing in a way I had never danced in my entire life. All that pent-up frustration, all the nights I'd spent feeling small and invisible, all came pouring out through the music. My hips moved to the rhythm, my arms went up over my head, and I could physically feel the shift in the atmosphere around me. It was like that moment when I took off my cover-up, but amplified by 10. I could feel the eyes of every guy at the party fixed on me, and it was the most intoxicating sensation I had ever experienced. Marcus danced with me, a look of genuine surprise and admiration on his face. This was a new version of me, and he was clearly impressed. His hands would occasionally rest on my waist as we moved, and I let them. When our bodies brushed up against each other, I didn't pull away. And I did it all, knowing that Tyler was watching from afar, his expression growing more and more desperate with every move I made. Soon, other guys started approaching, cutting in to dance with me. First, it was Jake from the football team, then David, who was one of the most popular guys in our entire school. At one point, even the substitute PE teacher, who Jess had invited because she thought he was cute, came over to dance. I laughed with all of them, flirted with all of them, and all the while, Tyler just stood there, frozen, watching everything with this storm of desire and anger brewing in his eyes. When the music finally shifted to something slower, Marcus pulled me in close. His hands rested on my waist, and I could feel the warmth of his body against mine. It was nice. It was exciting. And for a moment, I thought it was exactly what I needed to finally forget Tyler. But even as I rested my head on Marcus's shoulder, I couldn't stop my eyes from drifting over to the corner where he was watching. Every single time our eyes met, I could see he was dying of jealousy. Honestly, it was better than any revenge I could have ever planned. The party was getting more and more lively, and I felt like the star of my own movie. Tyler couldn't stand still. He kept circling the party like a shark, always finding some lame excuse to pass by where I was. He'd go get a drink from the table right next to my group of friends, or go say hi to someone standing a few feet away, anything to justify being near me. Meanwhile, Madison was practically vibrating with irritation. She kept trying to pull him into conversations, grabbing his arm, giving him little kisses on his cheek, but Tyler was completely disconnected. His eyes always returned to me, and it was driving her absolutely insane. At one point, I heard her voice cut through the noise, sharp and angry. "Tyler, are you even listening to me?" "Of course I am," he replied, but he didn't even bother to look at her. His eyes were locked on me. I was sitting on the edge of the pool, my feet dangling in the water, holding court with a small group of admirers that had formed around me. Marcus was on my right, Jake was on my left, and David was crouched in front of me with a couple of other guys, all of them hanging on my every word. "Have you always been like this?" David asked, his eyes wide with fascination. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "Like what?" "Like this," he said, gesturing to all of me. "Free, confident, sexy." I let out a soft laugh. "I've always been like this," I said, making sure my voice was loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. It's just that some people didn't know how to recognize it. Just then, I felt that familiar presence again. Tyler was approaching. He was trying to be subtle, but it was obvious he was heading straight for our group. A mischievous smile spread across my face. It was time to turn up the heat. "Do you guys want to see something?" I asked the group, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. A chorus of "sure" and "yeah" came back instantly. I got up and walked over to the speaker, scrolling through the playlist until I found the perfect song, something slow, sensual, and dramatic. I turned the volume up and walked back to the edge of the pool. Then, I started to dance. Alone. It wasn't like the energetic dancing from before. This was different. I moved my body slowly, provocatively, feeling every beat of the music run through my veins like electricity. The world outside of that moment melted away. It was just me, the music, and the water. The guys around me were completely hypnotized. Some of them even started recording with their phones, while others just stared, their mouths hanging open. I felt like a goddess, powerful and completely irresistible. That's when I felt a hand grab my arm. I spun around and saw Tyler, his expression deadly serious. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice tight. "I'm busy," I replied coolly, turning back to my dance. "Please," he insisted, his grip not loosening. I stopped dancing but didn't move from my spot. I gestured to the audience we had gathered. "Say it here," I said. Tyler looked around, his eyes darting between the faces of Marcus, Jake, and David, all of whom were watching him like hawks. He was clearly uncomfortable. "Alone," he said through gritted teeth. "No," I replied, my voice firm. "Here is fine. Say what you have to say." He swallowed hard, the muscles in his jaw tight. I think I made a mistake," he finally stammered. An awkward, heavy silence fell over our little group. Everyone was leaning in, hanging on every word. I crossed my arms, playing dumb. "What kind of mistake?" "Breaking up with you," he said, the words rushing out. "Yes, you're incredible. You're different, sexy. I never saw you like this." "Funny," I said with a cold smile. "I didn't change anything. I've always been like this. You were just too blind to notice." "Then why?" he asked, and I could hear the raw desperation in his voice now. "Why were you never like this with me?" I looked him straight in the eye. "Because you didn't deserve it," I replied, my voice dangerously calm. The answer hit him like a punch to the gut. He just stood there, stunned. "You made me feel like I wasn't enough," I continued, the words I had held back for months finally coming out. "You made me feel boring, conservative, dull. You destroyed my self-esteem, and then you left me because I wasn't interesting enough for you. I never said that. He tried to defend himself. You didn't have to, I shot back. Your actions spoke for you. Just then, Madison stormed over, her face a mask of pure fury. Seriously, Tyler? She shrieked. You're going to stand there humiliating yourself? And me because of her? Tyler didn't even look at her. His eyes were still locked on me. Marcus stood up then, stepping closer to me. She's right, he said to Tyler. You lost your chance, man. Nobody asked you, Tyler snapped, his anger finally flaring. You don't need to ask, Marcus replied coolly, standing protectively in front of me. Anyone with eyes can see you didn't know what you had. Jake stood up on my other side, a silent show of support. Tyler looked around and finally seemed to realize he was surrounded by guys who were all on my side. Let's go, Tyler, Madison said, yanking on his arm. You're making a fool of yourself. No, Tyler said, shaking her off. I'm not leaving. Madison's jaw dropped. Then I am, she retorted. You choose. Either you come with me right now, or it's over between us. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. Tyler looked at Madison, then his eyes flickered back to me, then back to her again. I could see the war going on inside his head, the battle between his pride and his desire. I'm staying, he said finally, his voice low. Madison was absolutely shocked. You can't be serious, she whispered. Then that's it, she screamed. You're pathetic, Tyler. Running after an ex who clearly doesn't want you. She left, stomping away and cursing his name as she disappeared into the house. Tyler just stood there, looking like he'd just realized the gravity of what he'd done. I looked at him, then turned back to my group of admirers. I hope it was worth it, I said, a triumphant smile on my face. Deep down, I knew I had just won the first major battle. He had lost his girlfriend because of me, and the night was just getting started. With Madison out of the picture, Tyler was completely unmoored. He wandered around the party like a ghost, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He'd still try to get close to me, but all the fight had gone out of him. He was just pathetic. I, on the other hand, was having more fun than I'd ever had in my life. The pressure was off. The night was mine. What a show, Marcus whispered in my ear as we watched Tyler retreat. It's not over yet, I replied, smiling. It was time to raise the stakes. Do you guys want to play truth or dare? I asked my little group of admirers. They all eagerly agreed, and we sat in a circle near the pool. I made sure we were just a few feet away from where Tyler was pretending to talk to some friends. I knew he was listening to every word. I'll start, I said, grabbing an empty bottle. I gave it a spin, and it landed on Marcus. Truth or dare? Dare, he replied without a second of hesitation. I looked him right in the eye. I dare you to kiss me, I said, my voice clear and confident. A wave of surprise went through the group. Marcus didn't need to be told twice. He leaned in and kissed me, and it was a good kiss, passionate and full of desire. For that moment, I let myself get lost in it. When we pulled apart, there were whistles and applause. I snuck a peek over at Tyler. His fists were clenched at his sides, his jaw locked tight. He was furious. The game continued, and with each turn, the dares got bolder. I kissed 2 other guys, did a sensual dance with one of the girls, and reveled in the shock and excitement of it all. All the while, Tyler sat there, drinking more and more, looking like he was about to explode. Then, the bottle stopped on me again. This time, it was Jess asking the question. Truth or dare? Dare, I said instantly. Jess smiled, a mischievous glint in her eye. I dare you to skinny dip. The entire group fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Even for this party, that was a bold challenge. I laughed, a little nervously. Seriously? Seriously, she confirmed. I glanced over at Tyler. He was leaning forward, practically drooling, waiting to see what I would do. That settled it. Okay, I said, standing up. But no phones. You can't record. Everyone promised. I walked to the darker end of the pool, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, deliberately, I reached behind my back and untied the strings of my bikini top, letting it fall to the ground. Then, I slipped off the bottoms. The silence was deafening. For a split second, I was completely naked in front of everyone. But I didn't feel shame. I felt pure, unfiltered power. I dove into the water, the cool silk of it washing over me. When I surfaced, shaking my hair back, the silence was shattered by an explosion of screams and applause. I got out of the water slowly, grabbing a towel. Tyler was just standing there, a few feet away, completely mesmerized. I walked back to the circle and put my bikini back on. But before the game could continue, Tyler was there, grabbing my arm. "We need to talk," he said, pulling me away from the group. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demanded as soon as we were alone. "Having fun?" I replied calmly. "That wasn't fun. That was exhibitionism," he spat. "You're not like this." "How do you know who I am?" I shot back. "Do you really know me? You never did anything like that with me. You were never this free." "Because you didn't deserve to see this side of me," I retorted. "What side?" he sneered. "The side?" The word hung in the air between us, ugly and sharp. He immediately regretted it. I saw it on his face. "Sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean that." But it was too late. "Oh, so now I'm for feeling free? For having fun? For doing what I want with my body?" I took a step back. "That's exactly it. You can't accept that I'm happy without you. You can't handle that I'm confident and sexy without you." "I can handle it," he said desperately. "No, you can't. You know how I know? Because you just called me AS for doing exactly what you always secretly wanted me to do." He reached for me, but I pulled away. "No," I said firmly. "You lost the right to touch me. You lost the right to have any opinion about me." "I still love you," he whispered, and for the first time all night, his voice sounded broken and vulnerable. I looked at him, the boy who had shattered my confidence, and I felt nothing but a cold, hard clarity. "No, you don't," I said. "You love the idea of possessing me, but I'm not your property. I never was." I turned my back on him and walked back to my friends, leaving him standing there alone in the dark. I walked back to the circle and sat down, my heart still beating fast, but this time from adrenaline, not fear. When I sat down, everyone looked at me with a new kind of respect. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, his voice soft with concern. "Perfect," I replied, and I meant it. I felt perfect, free, powerful. It was as if some massive weight I didn't even know I was carrying had been lifted from my shoulders. Tyler could stay in his corner and cry about it, because I was no longer his problem. The rest of the night passed in a beautiful, happy blur. After that final argument with Tyler, I was completely uninhibited. He was still at the party, but he looked different now. He wasn't angry or possessive anymore. He was just defeated. As the party started to wind down around 2 in the morning, I was sitting with Marcus near the pool when Tyler approached one last time. His voice was completely different. The arrogance was gone, replaced only by a quiet, profound sadness. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. I nodded at Marcus, who understood and discreetly walked away. "What do you want, Tyler?" I asked, suddenly feeling very tired. He sat on the edge of the pool in front of me. "I want to apologize," he said, running his hands over his face. "For everything. For calling you what I called you. For making you feel like you weren't enough. For being a coward. For everything." He finally admitted it. "I see now that you were always incredible. I was just too blind to notice." He told me he was going to regret losing me for the rest of his life. We were quiet for a moment, the sound of the last few guests talking softly in the background. "I don't want you to regret it," I said finally. "I want you to be happy, learn from your mistakes, and treat the next girl better than you treated me." "There won't be a next girl," he said, his eyes glassy with tears. "Not like you." "Yes, there will be," I said gently. "But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes we hurt the people we love so much that there's no going back." Then I said the words that surprised even me. "I forgive you." He looked up, shocked. "Not because you deserve it," I continued, "but because I deserve peace." "But that doesn't change anything," I added firmly. "We're not getting back together. Never." "I know," he whispered. He stood up, looked at me one last time, and said, "I hope you're very happy. You deserve it." "I know I deserve it," I replied with a small smile. He walked away, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that was the last real conversation we would ever have. Marcus came back and sat beside me. "Do you want me to take you home?" he asked. "In a little while," I replied, leaning my head against him. "I want to enjoy this a little more." We sat there, watching the stars reflected in the water. "You know," I said to him, "I think this was the best night of my life." "Why?" he asked. "Because it was the first night I was completely myself. The following week at school, the transformation was complete. I could feel the stairs and the hallways and hear the whispers. But they were different now. They were whispers of admiration and envy. Jess came up to me by my locker. "You became a legend," she said. "And Tyler is devastated." I just shrugged. "I didn't change," I corrected her. "I just stopped hiding. I started dressing differently, not for anyone else, but for me. A slightly shorter skirt, a more revealing blouse. I felt incredible. Tyler tried to talk to me at break, looking terrible with dark circles under his eyes. But I cut him off. "Tyler," I said, my voice calm but firm, "we have nothing more to talk about. You made your choices. I made mine. Please stop." He finally understood and walked away. And as I watched him go, I realized I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even satisfaction. He was just a memory. Marcus and I started getting to know each other better. He was kind and funny and treated me like I deserved to be treated. One day at lunch he got serious for a moment. "I'm falling in love with you," he admitted. "But I know you're still discovering yourself, so I'm not in a hurry." That was exactly what I needed to hear. Someone who respected my journey. Looking at him, I knew I was on the right path. The greatest victory wasn't getting revenge on Tyler. It was finding myself. That silly neon green bikini hadn't changed me. It had just given me the courage to be the person I was all along. Sometimes, that's all you need, a little push to discover your own power. And just like that, she found herself. Isn't it wild how sometimes the biggest changes in our lives start with the smallest things? A joke gift, a moment of defiance in front of a mirror, a single decision to stop being the person everyone expects you to be. This story, for me, is all about that moment. That feeling of breaking out of a cage you didn't even realize you were in, and taking that first, terrifying, exhilarating breath of fresh air. She wore that bikini to get back at her ex, but in the end, it had nothing to do with him at all. It was about her. But it does make me wonder, and this is where I want to hear from all of you. Her journey started as a revenge plot. She wanted to make Tyler jealous, to make him regret ever calling her boring. So my first question is, can true self-discovery ever come from a place of revenge? Was it a necessary first step for her to focus on him, so she could eventually learn to focus on herself? Or does starting with that kind of negative energy taint the whole journey? At what point did it stop being about him and start being about her? And let's talk about the party. The dancing, the kissing, the skinny dipping. On one hand, it was an incredible display of confidence and taking control of her own body and narrative. She was shedding her old, insecure skin, and it was beautiful to witness. But on the other hand, was she just trading one performance for another? She stopped performing the role of the safe, boring girlfriend and started performing the role of the wild, confident party girl who thrived on male attention. Where do we draw the line between genuine empowerment and just seeking validation from a different audience? Was her behavior that night truly for herself? Or was it still, in some small way, a show for the people watching? Finally, that last conversation with Tyler, she forgave him. She said it was for herself, so she could have peace. And I think that's an incredibly mature and powerful stance to take. But should she have? Does someone who systematically broke down your self-esteem, called you a slur, and only wanted you back when you fit his new fantasy, does that person really deserve the grace of forgiveness? Is it always the high road to forgive and let go? Or is it sometimes okay to hold on to that anger, to let it remind you of what you will never tolerate again? Maybe our true selves aren't found, but built, one daring choice at a time. If this story made you feel understood, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Cocotales Reddit. Every follow and comment gives me the motivation to keep sharing these real, emotional stories with you. And if you have a story of your own, feel free to share it in the comments. I'm always here to listen. Now, let's talk.